Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I had another video all queued up for today in which I admit I am wrong. I bumped that till tomorrow, but definitely subscribe so you can see me admit that I'm completely wrong about something. So anyway, I have a feeling given the comments in the last video that some people know what I'm going to talk about. But anyway, today instead, I want to talk about full self-driving supervised 13.2, which is 2024.39.10 for those who follow along. By the way, a big thank you to Not a Tesla app for posting these release notes. They're great. I will leave a link to the original in the description so you can go check it out. Anyway, we are going to talk about the release notes because there's some new stuff in 13.2. I don't have it yet. I've watched Chris or Dirty Tesla. I watched Chuck Cook. I watched Holmars. All of their drives. I have not seen AI drivers yet. I don't know if he has one out or not. I did not see that. But anyway, hopefully he does, and it would be great to see his as well. So I think that they released this software just to the original, the OG testers right during the Thanksgiving holiday break. Before I even start with this, I want to give Tesla AI team, in other words, the former Tesla FSD team, huge props for dropping the Optimus hand video on, I think that was Thursday, right? That was Thanksgiving. Yeah, they recorded it Wednesday night. They dropped it Thursday, so that they did that on Thanksgiving. And then they dropped the 13.2 release on Saturday of Thanksgiving. So these folks are working really hard through the holidays. Also, I want to make a note that Ashok and the Tesla AI team had said a couple of months ago they'd laid out a roadmap, and they're actually sticking to it. They're adhering to the timeline. They said around Thanksgiving for the release of 13.2, and they barely snuck it in. It's December 1st. Happy December to everybody. But they barely snuck it in, but they did get 13.2 out right around the Thanksgiving timeframe. So pretty amazing work. So anyway, without further ado, I just wanted to say congratulations and a big thank you that us normal folks can actually test out this kind of software. It's amazing. And I'm going to talk about the Cybertruck in just a minute. There is an addendum to the end of this whole thing where we drove the Cybertruck about 1,200, sorry. I doubled it twice in my head. Somewhere around 12 or 1,300 miles. Yeah, closer to 1,300 miles over Thanksgiving, and, terrible traffic and stuff. And I have some comments about Cybertruck's full self-driving as opposed to the Model Y, which is, even with 12.5, is really amazing. Anyway, I will table that for the end. Definitely stick around for that because I think it will be worthwhile. I've had similar experiences to other folks, as far as I can tell. Anyway, FSD 13, and this is 13.2, by the way, so obviously 13.0 and .1 were internal releases, upgrades every part of the end-to-end driving network. So this is a brand new piece of software, not full self-driving 12. New thing. So anyway, or at least fully upgraded on every part. It includes a 36 hertz full resolution AI for video inputs. If you don't know, the cameras in the AI for cars, which are all cars built since about the middle of 2023, somewhere around there. Anyway, they've been sort of dumbed down to pretend to be the old cameras. In other words, lower resolution, lower dynamic range, all of that kind of stuff, in order for Tesla to be able to create one branch of the software, which was hardware 3 or AI 3 based. Previously, they have now shifted that so that all of the focus, they're using the Cortex processors in Giga Texas, which is the gigantic NVIDIA cluster that they have, probably some Dojo as well. But anyway, they're using that they're switching over so that they're using AI 4 or hardware 4 now first, and that hardware 3 will be a trickle down. So as I was saying previously, trickle down FSD, unfortunately, that means for folks with older vehicles that have hardware 3, which is most folks on the road, you aren't going to get this stuff for a while. It's just going to take a while for it to trickle down for you. So sorry about that. But anyway, if you have AI 4, particularly, it looks like Model Ys are the ones that got it first, but which is what we have. So hopefully we'll get it relatively soon. Anyway, 36 hertz full resolution AI4. That's the same frame rate as the old cameras, but these are significantly larger. I think from like 1.4 to like 5 megapixels, if I'm remembering. That's off the top of my head, but it's a significant size increase, and also the dynamic range is better. So in bad lighting conditions, it can see things more clearly. So that's a really, really big deal that it's able to handle that much more data, that much more dynamic range. All of that is great. Native AI for inputs and neural network architectures. So that's just what I was saying previously about the fact that they've rebuilt the network to be based on the hardware for the AI4 hardware and also the new cameras. So that's completely native to this branch, which means that we really should start seeing it sing. And from the 13 videos that I've seen from the folks that have put them out already, looks like it's doing a fantastic job. So we've talked about these two previously in upcoming things that they were going to put out, but now it's actually in 13. 4.2x data scaling and 5x training compute scaling enabled by the Cortex cluster. The Cortex cluster is the new one at Giga Texas, the whole south wing of the building that they built, and the gigantic fans and all that stuff. So really cool that that's online and being used already. But anyway, 5x training compute scaling is huge. I mean, they've just multiplied their ability to do training by 5x. And assuming things are still holding, Elon and I believe Ashok as well have said that they are no longer compute constrained, so they're able to throw the compute resources they need to do the training, which also enables this 4.2x data scaling. In other words, they're able to ingest 4.2 times as much data. A lot of that probably has to do with this full resolution AI for video inputs. That's a lot more pixels that it's taking in, but it's able to increase the amount of data that it can handle by 4.2x. Or they might be talking about the amount of training, but I think it's the actual real-time data that's being ingested by the car. I could be wrong. Definitely let me know if I'm wrong about that. After my last very bold claim, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about that. But I believe what they're talking about here is 4.2x scaling of real-time data. So in other words, you've got these cameras are like 4x the resolution of the previous cameras, and it's able to deal with that higher resolution information and take it in. And that's going to cause the car to drive better. Just, it's like basically upgrading your eyes. It's like if you have crappy eyes and you get LASIK surgery and all of a sudden you can see better, you're going to be a better driver because you can just see more stuff. So anyway, that is huge. And the 5x training compute, of course, allows them to train on more data and to do more simulations and to run things 5 times faster. Also to develop the software 5 times faster because they can do, all the validation and stuff like that they have to do. So this is really, really impressive stuff. We had heard about this before, but now it is rolled into Full Self-Driving 13. Amazing upgrade. This, I believe, is a new one. I had not seen this before. At least I hadn't noticed it. Reduced photon to control latency. In other words, photons into the camera to steering wheel and accelerator pedal and brake, etc. Reduced the photon to control latency by 2x speed profiles on both city streets and highways. So what that means is, let's say it was 40 milliseconds latency previously. It's obviously going to be variable depending on how complex the situation is. But let's say it was 40. Now it's down to 20. So we've reduced it. We've made the car kind of twice as fast in terms of reactivity to situations. That is going to be absolutely huge in terms of the ability of the car to drive more smoothly, the way that we perceive the car driving, the feel of the safety of the car, the fact that it might almost react at this point with a 2x latency improvement, almost like it's reading things before we even see it. There's been a few times with the Model Y in particular that I've been like, oh my gosh, I think the thing was actually ahead of me. Usually I think something and I'm like, I identify a situation and I was like, oh, it needs to deal with that. And then the car does it like a half second later or something. But there have been a few instances with version 12 of the software where I've been like, whoa, I think it was actually ahead of me in terms of thinking about things. With a 2x latency reduction, that should actually be more frequent. That you should actually see the car react a little before you do. I can't guarantee that, but I think that that's the kind of thing we're going to look for if we see this latency improvement. That's going to be a huge and very dramatic improvement. This next one is also a little unexpected. Start Full Self-Driving supervised from park with the touch of a button. So you don't even have to like push the stalk down or push the button on the Cybertruck or something. You just push it on the screen. So this is moving towards that no steering wheel type of interface, right? Clearly what they're doing. And I think version 13 is the one that they've talked about being able to be used with the Cybercab type of vehicle. So this might be the software stack. They haven't really talked about when version 14 or what's going to be in 14, but I think that they're considering version 13, the version that the first Cybercabs will be using, some 13.5 or 6 or something, right? Down the line from where we are right now. In order to do that, there's no longer a steering wheel or control, so you need to move the control to start Full Self-Driving to the screen. So they've moved it to the screen. So now, as Chuck and Chris and Holmars, etc., have noticed, you just push the button and you hold it for like a second or two, and it just engages Full Self-Driving, which is very, very cool. And this next one is one that we have been waiting for literal years. Integrated unpark, reverse, and park capabilities. The big one is reverse, although parking and unparking is also really good. But what this means is now the car's not stuck. So if I'm in my driveway, like facing in and have to back out to the road, it has not been able to do that. So I have had to always engage Full Self-Driving after backing out and starting, starting my drive in forward. But now it should be able to deal with the fact that it's in my driveway and it needs to reverse out, or if it's in a parking space and it needs to reverse out, it can do that at the beginning of the full self-driving. And then of course it can park at the end. And I saw that, I think it was Chris, I think it was Dirty Tesla who did it. I don't know. Anyway, I could be wrong. But anyway, I saw him, like the car pulled into a parking spot. In fact, yes, it was definitely him because it was snowing up there. And I hope everybody up in the Northeast is doing okay, man. It sounds like the Pennsylvania, New York, upstate New York area have just been bombed. So hopefully you guys are staying warm and the power is staying on. But anyway, if you watch Chris's video, you'll see the car pull into a parking spot. It doesn't do perfectly. It kind of takes up 2 spots instead of 1, but you know, such is life. It's early days with this stuff, but that is going to be really nice that it's fully end to end, because the places I generally have to disengage the vehicle with the Model Y specifically, I'm going to talk about the Cybertruck in a minute. But anyway, with the Model Y is the start of the drive where I have to like reverse it out, get out of a parking place, things like that. And then of course the end of the drive when you have to park the vehicle someplace. So those are the two times with the Model Y that I have to disengage most frequently. Next up, we have improved reward predictions for collision avoidance. This is really cool. So in other words, you know, neural networks are trained with loss functions. In other words, you create some sort of reward function that says, hey, you did a good job, or, you know, boo, you did a bad job, and slap you with the ruler, the old Catholic school thing, whack, whack, things like that. So if you can improve the reward function, if you can make that better, you can allow the vehicle to do better because it learns better, right? It's the difference between a good teacher and a bad teacher. That's the difference between a bad reward function and a good reward function. So clearly they've improved the reward function for collision avoidance, which allows the vehicle to avoid collisions more gracefully, more, you know, effectively, whatever. If it used to avoid 80% of them, it now avoids 90%. I'm just throwing out random numbers here. I don't have any idea, but clearly improving that is going to be a good thing because you don't want to have a collision. That makes for a bad day. Next up is the mysterious improved camera cleaning. We had seen this previously. I think that what they might be talking about is some sort of software that actually, if a blob gets on the camera, like a piece of dirt or something like that, it sort of digitally cleans it. I have to think that's what they're talking about. They don't have little windshield wipers for the cameras. So, or unless it's possible they mean on the main 3 cameras that are up in the top of the car where the windshield wiper goes across. But again, I don't know how you improve the hardware of a windshield wiper. It just does what it does. So my guess is what they're talking about here is some sort of digital camera cleaning where it's able to remove spots digitally and effectively digitally clean the camera. That's just a guess, but I don't know how else they do it because they don't have hardware to actually do the cleaning. So my guess is that this is some sort of software cleaning. And then speaking of confusing, they talk about, again, redesigned controller for smoother, more accurate tracking. So I was like, hey, let's go ahead and ask Grok about this and see what Grok has to say, which was quite a bit, actually. So basically, it says that it thinks it, in the context of Tesla's full self-driving, refers to improvements in how the vehicle's control systems manage its movement on the road. What this could mean, smoother tracking, this implies that the vehicle will handle transitions between different driving scenarios more fluidly. For example, when adjusting speed or changing lanes, the car's movements should be less abrupt or jerky, providing a more comfortable ride for passengers and more accurate tracking. This suggests enhancements in how the vehicle follows its intended path. This could include better adherence to lane boundaries, more precise positioning when navigating around objects or other vehicles, and improved prediction and response to the movements of other road users. So what it's saying here is it's more of the output control. It's able to track the output control. I was thinking about input control like cameras and tracking objects and stuff. Again, don't know. This is what Grok had to say, but that it seems like that's probably a better guess than what I had. But anyway, that just means that basically the car should be more smooth as it's operating. Again, if somebody from Tesla's AI team or someone in the know wants to let me know in the comments or write me privately, that would be great, because it is a little confusing exactly what that note means, but that's what Grok has to say about it. So we'll see if Grok ends up being right. And then last but certainly not least, and sorry this didn't fit on the previous page, so it's on a separate page, dynamic routing around road closures, which displays them along an affected route when they are detected by the fleet. So first of all, fleet detection, that means if they see a road closure or if there's an accident, or even potentially if something gets in the road, like a tire explodes or something, there's a bunch of junk across one of the lanes in the highway. I don't know how specific it'll be eventually, but at this point, it looks like at least road closures are included. So that is a really cool thing. So if there's, again, the road gets closed down, and this happened several times on our drive back and forth to Washington, D.C., was we had road closures, we had rerouting and things like that. But the ability of the fleet to detect that, to sort of upload it to the cloud and then download it to your car, and then your car is able to dynamically deal with that and go around it, take a detour or something. The difference is that you could do this faster, right? Eventually Google Maps and other things will catch up and realize that that's there. But if you know 5 minutes before everybody else, you're on the detour route and going around this thing 5 minutes before it gets totally packed and everybody else is on that road as well. So this will allow you to get there first, right? You'll be at the front of the line instead of the back of the line. Because that's the problem, of course, now is that everybody has GPS. And so you're driving along and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's an accident up here. And so the main highway is shut down, so you should go this way instead. But everybody else's GPS says that at the same time, and then all of a sudden you see a massive number of people getting off at that exit, and then the detour route is even slower than the main route because that got bogged down as well. But if you can get this more quickly than everybody else, then you're out in front of the pack instead of behind them, and there you go. And before we get to upcoming improvements, let me talk about the Cybertruck for a minute. I have said this before, I think the Cybertruck behaves like a puppy that got big too fast, right? So you get like a really large breed dog or something, and they're teeny weeny and they're cute and everything, and then they just blow up. They grow super, super fast, and they're 4 months old, and they're way bigger than their bodies can understand, and they like run into walls and fall down and things like that. It's that sort of like big puppy sort of feeling with the Cybertruck. I think Chuck Cook last night in his video said it feels like you took the Model Y and you just took the neural network and stuck it in the Cybertruck. That's what it feels like, because it feels like, oh crap, I'm a third heavier than I thought I was. I'm a lot bigger than I thought I was. Our long road trip, 1,300 miles or so, there was a lot of bad events, like scary things that happened where the truck would just go into the far left of the lane while we were driving down the highway. Scary stuff, right? It's over the yellow line on the left, or it's on the dotted line on the right. So it weaves back and forth across the road. And this is hundreds of miles of experience with this. And that gets really, really scary when there's a truck in the other lane and you're, edging up on the dashed white line. And it gets even more scary when there's construction or barrels or cement on the left wall on a very, very narrow shoulder, and the car wants to go right on that yellow line, and we would have to disengage for that. So that's something that I think will get adjusted over time as there is more Cybertruck data, but it definitely needs to be fixed. It's pretty scary driving on the highway, and its reaction time is a little bit too slow. It doesn't slow down quite fast enough often because the car, I think, just weighs more than it thinks it does. So you have to kind of think about things a little bit more in advance in terms of braking so that you don't have to slam the brakes on at the last minute, which, Thanksgiving traffic, it's just bumper to bumper. I-95, the worst highway in the United States for sure. You're bumper to bumper, you're going 70 and then you're going 0. And the car has to be much more reactive to that. It can't go like, oh, the guy's braking, he's braking. Oh crap, he's braking really hard, because you slam the brakes on, and yeah, the car's going to stop, not hit the car in front of you, but the guy behind you is going to slam into your rear bumper if you're not careful. You need to, be very careful about these deceleration profiles in order to not just be safe for yourself, but to allow the people behind you to have plenty of time to react and not have to slam their brakes on. That's what causes an accident and a chain reaction accident. So all of these things need to be updated with the Cybertruck because it just doesn't have the right deceleration profile. It certainly doesn't stay lane centered, which is, something that it absolutely has to do. And then the last thing is the speed profile on highways. On city streets, I totally understand chill, normal, hurry mode, whatever. The car can deal with its maximum speeds and all of that kind of stuff. I don't care. On the highway, I really care. When I'm driving 600 miles, 650 miles to my parents' house, I want to know the exact speed. I want to be able to go like, I want you to go 70 miles an hour in a 65 or 75 in a 65, whatever I set it to. And I want it to do that speed always, unless traffic dictates that it has to, go slower or something. It really, really matters because you're doing this dance when you're going long distances like that of how fast can I go exactly so that I make it in a more efficient time frame without getting a ticket. And, on Thanksgiving holiday, there are police out everywhere. So you want to be able to dial it into the exact number. I mean, if I want to go 7 miles an hour over the speed limit because that's where I feel safe, I want to go exactly 7 miles an hour over. I don't want to be going 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, then exactly the speed limit. It was all over the place. It was anything from below the speed limit up to 15 miles an hour above. All of those scenarios are terrible. The profile needs to have exact number dialed in. I'm sorry to complain about this so much, but Tesla AI team, I heard you guys say that philosophically you're opposed to that. you need to do it for highways. Don't care about city streets, don't care about that kind of stuff. But when you're driving 10 or 12 hours on a highway, or longer if you're going cross country, that exact speed is necessary. Now, yes, there should be a maximum allowable speed. In other words, if you're stuck between two trucks and you want to scoot out around them, or if you have to get to an exit or something like that, and you need to accelerate for a moment to go faster, sure, that's okay too. And you can already see that in FSD 12 that there's like a maximum. You can set it to like 80 or 85 and it's like never go above this. But if you need to, you can scoot out and you can go faster for a minute if you want to. But in terms of normal driving speed, I want an exact number. I really want that. So it's very important. And if you do long road trips, you'll understand, because you're, again, like I said, you're doing this dance. It's how efficiently can I get where I'm going without getting a ticket? That's the basic dance that you're doing. And for all of us have different comfort levels. There's no way you're going to guess what mine is versus my wife's versus the guy down the street. There are hundreds of millions of different driving profiles of what people feel comfortable with. You just need to let us do it. Now, obviously, when we get to the Cybercab and we're not in control anymore, you do whatever you want to. But as long as these are our cars and we're going on long road trips and things like that with them, we need to have exact speed control. It's really important. So thank you guys for considering that. I appreciate it. All right, with that being said, let's go quickly through the upcoming improvements: 3x model size scaling and 3x model context length scaling. So that means they're going to increase the size of the neural network by 3x. So if there's 5 billion parameters or 10 billion, whatever it is now, call it 10 for easy numbers. If we have 10 billion parameters in the model now, it's going to go to 30 billion parameters. So it's going to be a much bigger model that will allow it to handle more edge cases and stuff, because every one of those parameters is a knob that you can tune for a particular case that you're dealing with. So a bigger model allows you to have more refined behavior. Now, of course, that comes at the expense of a huge computational cost, but that's where AI for hardware comes in. And by the way, if you have an older vehicle with AI 3 and you really care about this, Tesla has some really good deals right now with like Model Ys and Model 3s that I think it's zero interest. And I think you can actually transfer the full self-driving to the new vehicle and everything. So check it out. I think that would be good. And if you want to buy that, you can save $500 or $1,000, I think. Anyway, check out my link in the description because you can save some money as you purchase a new vehicle as well. And of course, the 3x model context length scaling, that's really hard to say. I've tried that like 4 times. Context length scaling. Wow, that's a hard thing to say. Anyway, 3x means that you're going to go from like 10-second window where you can remember 10 seconds to like 30 seconds or something. That's going to be huge in terms of its ability to look around and figure out where it needs to go and make predictions about the future based on the past. That's going to be extremely helpful. So hopefully that will, come about in 13.3, 13.4, something along those lines. This one, of course, is very cool. Audio inputs for better handling of emergency vehicles. Again, just basic stuff. There's a microphone inside the vehicle someplace. I'm not exactly sure, maybe up where the camera is or something. But anyway, that can hear you, so you can talk to the car and everything. But that also means that it can do like you do, because oftentimes you hear a police car, ambulance, whatever, you hear it before you can see it, because of course there's traffic all around you and you hear the whatever. So anyway, hearing that gives you potentially 10 or 15 seconds of additional knowledge that a vehicle like that is coming up. So that's going to have a big effect on how the car deals with emergency vehicles. That will be very, very advantageous, that it will be able to deal with audio as well as video. Been a long time in the making. I did a video on this years ago where I requested that Tesla do this, and they're finally getting to it. So very cool. So we talked about this in the previous release note things, but improved reward predictions for navigation. So again, it's that better teacher kind of thing. This, in this case, is navigation. A big reason I disengaged the vehicle, and especially the Model Y, because it's so good right now, is because it had bad navigation information and it's driving stupidly because it's following the navigation instead of doing what is more intelligent. So anyway, if it can do a better job of predicting navigation and stuff, that's going to improve the experience even more. Next up, something specific to parking lots: improvements to false braking and slower driving in parking lots. In other words, it will do a good job, a better job of not, going, oh no, somebody might be coming, and braking really hard in the parking lot. Basically, it'll just drive slowly and more consistently, which is a good way to drive in the parking lot. You want to not be unpredictable. You don't want to stop fast. You don't want to accelerate fast because there's people around, there's other cars that might be backing out. So generally speaking, the smoother you can drive in a parking lot, the more safe you are and the more happy the folks around you will be. So that is a good improvement as well. Next up is one I'm looking forward to: support for destination options, including pulling over, right? So I think you'll be able to specify, just pull over in front of this person's house. parking in a spot. In other words, I'm going to Chipotle, please, park me in a parking spot there, a driveway or a garage. So the garage part will be really beneficial if the car can just pull right into the garage for me. That will be very, very cool. Our Cybertruck especially is very large, and it's really, it's a little stressful backing it into the garage. So hopefully we will get the car to park itself there and it will handle all of that stuff itself. Fingers crossed. That will be a nice improvement to look forward to. Next up is one I hadn't seen before, which is efficient representation of maps and navigation inputs. Interesting. Maybe they've got a more refined way of storing this. I think it might just be in a JSON format at this point. Tesla puts flags on the Google Map, data that comes out to indicate things like potholes and, unidentified stop signs, stuff like that. So anyway, sounds like a more efficient representation of that, or potentially the Google Maps, the original raw data and stuff. So I don't think this will have a huge performance impact, but it will allow them to store this more efficiently in memory and maybe be able to recall it more efficiently. And maybe it'll just be better data overall, because there are a lot of problematic navigation situations. So this all, again, I don't think we'll probably notice this that much, but that'll be a cool improvement internally to make things run more efficiently. And finally, improved handling of camera occlusions. If you go back to this note, you see improved camera cleaning, and then we have improved camera handling of camera occlusions. So they might, again, be different things. Again, I'm just not exactly sure what the cleaning part is. Handling of camera occlusions makes much more sense to me. Again, it's like you get a blob of dirt or something like that, and the car can deal with it. The AI hardware can handle those occlusions. Again, you can just pull in data, right? Every time somebody drives on a rainy day, or if it's a little bit of mud, or if there's dust in the air, or anything like that that occludes the camera, you can just pull in all of that data and you can train on that. And then, of course, you can create simulations of that as well. So you can create a lot of training data to deal with camera occlusions, which should allow the vehicle to drive better when the cameras are not perfectly clean. And by the way, you should clean your cameras. It's not that big a deal. You can take your thumb and just rub around the camera and just, sort of get rid of it. If you really want to get nutty, you can get a little bit of water or something and put it on it and clean it off. But don't just let them sit there and get super dirty. That the car drives better when the cameras are not occluded. So, but anyway, if they get occluded on a drive and there's blobs of dirt and things like that, then it should be able to handle that better. So that should make the experience much better when you're not driving with perfectly clean cameras. All right, so that's what Tesla's Thanksgiving update gave us. Quite a bit of stuff, as you see. Not just what we already are seeing in 13.2, which is huge, including, again, reverse is going to be a big deal, but also the upcoming improvements that should be coming out with version 13 of the software over the next several months. This is not going to come out tomorrow, but over the next several months. In the meantime, I can't wait to get 13.2 or 13.2.1 or so in my Model Y soon, and hopefully version 13 of the software in the Cybertruck soon as well, so that it hopefully will drive a little bit more like a truck and a little less like a Model Y with a truck on top of it. Thank you all for watching this, and if you want to help out the channel, definitely be sure to like and subscribe. And of course, let me know about any mistakes I might have made here or any insights you have as well. And if you've had the rare opportunity to drive full self-driving 13, let me know about that as well. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.